Do you have a sump pump and a garden to water? In this video, I'm going to show you how we used our sump pump in our greenhouse to capture water to make it way easier to water our greenhouse plants. The setup is not difficult, and I'll walk you through the different things that we use to make it happen so you can do it too. I'm Natalie Lucier from Waykeeper Farm and Nerdery, and I'm here today in our geothermal greenhouse where we have pipes underground and a sump pump attached to them to make sure that no water gets stuck in those pipes. And in a previous video, I was sort of grumbling about the fact that we placed our sump pump in not the best place in the greenhouse. It was hard to pump all the water out all the time. And it was an interesting thing because my cousin Luke, who is amazing, huge shout out and thank you to him, basically said, hey, why don't you save some of that sump pump water to water your plants? And we definitely went, oh, that's such a great idea. Let's figure out how to do that. So he clued into one of the permaculture principles called the problem is the solution. Sometimes the thing that kind of bugs us and is annoying is actually pointing us to something that's even better. So in this case, that definitely happened for us. Once we realized that the sump pump wasn't necessarily an issue, but could actually benefit the greenhouse, things started to turn around very quickly. So the first thing is that we're using an IBC tote. So this stands for intermediate bulk container, and it tends to be made out of plastic that is food grade, which means that you can also store water and it will stay fairly good. It has some UV protection as well. So we can get these locally for about $100 used, and we do have to clean them very well because usually they have oil or molasses or something else in there. So we want to make sure they're really clean before we start putting water in there. So this kind of IBC tote holds about 275 gallons of water. Next, we're using PVC pipes to bring water from the sump pump into this IBC tote, and that is a pretty simple setup. We basically just have a couple of elbows to make sure it goes in the right spot. And originally this water was being piped out of the greenhouse and into the field outside of the greenhouse. We started setting up our system on just a regular sunny day, and we realized it was gonna rain that night, so we kind of had to haul and really do it quickly. So we quickly wrapped things up, made sure everything was working, and that IBC tote filled up for 275 gallons overnight with that rain and that snowstorm. So we really had to come in the morning and make sure everything was working properly. And what we realized is that we had set everything up properly, the whole thing filled up, but it was overflowing. So I will show you exactly what we did wrong and how to fix it. Because the soil here is really tough clay, we do tend to have very wet and very dry seasons, and this is definitely the wet season. We're in spring, and that means that we really need to make sure that this whole thing is running properly. So we set up an overflow system. So when the IBC tote gets full, then this pipe will send everything back out the greenhouse so that it really does not cause any other issues in the greenhouse. No overflow, stays in here. So how does this outflow pipe works? Well, first of all, we have to have it at the right height, and that's the thing that we didn't quite do the right way originally. So it was a little bit too tall, and so what you want to do is you want to lower it right below the top of the IBC. And what that means is that when the tank gets full, the pressure in the tank will be higher and it will start to pump the water out of this outflow valve. Now when it hits the top, it will start to come out until the pipe level is lower than the tank. At that point, it will stop. And the trick to make sure that it actually stops and doesn't create a siphon that pulls all of the water out of your tank is to make sure that the top is open and has airflow. And so I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. So this here's the original sump pump, and the water comes down from the bottom into this pipe here into the tote. And you can see this water here is from when we originally set it up. It was just overflowing all the way back here, causing a ton of water to pool here. And so what we did is we went ahead and shortened this area. So we cut off a little bit of this PVC pipe so that it is shorter. So you can see even like the water level here is exactly the same as the water level inside here, and that's the magic that you want. So if the water fills up here, then it will start to push into this pipe and fill out until the balance is reached again. So that's kind of the magic part. And then down here we have our spigot where we can grab water. So super easy, it just opens and closes. We can fill our watering can or buckets or a hose. And then, yeah, this is basically the magic. And like I said, this is super important to have open so that it doesn't create a siphon and take all of the water out every time it gets going. And then this pipe here is reattached to the pipe that goes all the way underneath this whole section here of the greenhouse and out completely outside into the field of the greenhouse. Then we also added a section with a spigot so we can get our water out into a watering can, a bucket, or even attach a hose to it. This sump pump project is a huge advantage for our greenhouse because this water tends to be a little bit warmer and less likely to be frozen, and it's such a big tank so it might actually have some thermal mass effects as it gets very cold at night in the winter. And also we're able to just water the greenhouse way more easily because it's inside. We don't have to go out. Our rain barrels may be frozen in the winter, but this water is less likely to be frozen too. Now, if you're curious about our climate battery setup and how we did that, then go ahead and watch that video now.